our thought was we're not really advertising for cases. We focused on brand awareness. Despite the negative public perception of lawyers as a whole, the general public has this negative perception of lawyers. People look to lawyers that they personally know for advice and leadership. I'm sitting with friends and, oh, lawyers are terrible. And you ask them, well, have you ever used one? Yeah. Well, how about that one? Oh, he was great.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that rotates counterclockwise south of the equator. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I'm Jake Sanders. He's Paul Julius. Paul, how's our rotation looking today?
We're solid, man. I was just down in engineering, and according to the team down there, they've got everything stabilized. The gyroscopes are all lined up. Things are blinking sequentially and in a manner that does not displease the engineering team.
And it looks good.
How you feeling?
Oh, no.
Is it weird?
Yeah.
Do we feel off balance?
I took a look at somebody handed me a clipboard, and I signed something, and I handed it back to him. We're pretty much set here.
Yeah.
So we're pivoting into maybe a transition to tell people what's on the show today. Where are we boldly headed?
We are boldly rotating towards talking about pivoting and adapting to change. First, with an article from ConsultWebs.com, and then we chat with founding partner Alan Cleveland of Adamson Cleveland about making the change to remote operations, adjusting advertising and social media strategies, and how to be a good leader in times of transition. And of course, we turn up the heat on our guest with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet today, a familiar chef behind the stove. It's Jake Sanders. It's something that I wrote called How Law Firms Are Marketing During COVID. Speaking to Alan later, as we've all been experiencing, with the transition up and down, the norms are changing, but marketing and advertising has to be consistent. Businesses are trying to stay afloat. How are they doing it? So I'll give an intro here, and then there are 3 examples and places where I, outline how law firms are actually making the most and delivering value to the marketplace during times of transition. So as the story of COVID unfolds and certainties and social behaviors fluctuate, law firm marketers are faced with many challenges, one of which is striking the right tone with our marketing, advertising, messaging, and PR. There are, in fact, several ways law firms can market their practices in ways that positively impact the community and serve as a reminder of the firm in a tumultuous time. In the article, we feature real-life examples of law firms focusing their legal marketing during COVID on 3 themes related to the idea of community in the real world, online connections, and content marketing. Some of the firms that I outlined here are our clients. Herman & Herman in Corpus Christi, Texas is just amazing with what they've been doing with the mass giveaways. Joy Law Firm has been doing a restaurant card giveaway on social media, just drawing attention to local businesses and supporting them. Just a lot of different ways that people have been using content marketing. Ed Herman, who's our favorite from Brown and Crouppen, he's been doing live drops for TV from his couch, but giving advice, continuing to do his video series, Ed Versus. And I just think if you take a look at those examples, there are positive ways that you can reach out to the community and continue to get your name out. That's what Alan talks about later, is just get the name out, have it out there, because if you are a plaintiff attorney and you're dealing with personal injury, you don't know when those accidents might happen. So you want to have that top of mind awareness, but you don't want to look like a shill. I get it. But there is a way to market and advertise and not feel like you're selling your soul. I think that's what really a lot of people don't want to do. Is like, you just don't want to look like a viper. So
Yeah.
my hot take is here. I wrote it all in here. Go check it out. Of course, I sign off on this article. But my take is that it's possible for people to market and maintain dignity. I think a lot of people feel like it's not dignified if I'm marketing, you know, and maybe people aren't worried about that, the folks listening to this show, but I just would like to address that and, say, hey, it's about awareness and value and, being of service, to your marketplace.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I do just want to say, if you're worried about dignity, if you're worried that maybe something you were doing, might not be perceived well now, it might be a
It's
little
too late.
time to little introspection, a little reflection on what you were doing, because it might.
What were you doing? Yeah, let's be honest.
Before all this happened, it's not a bad idea to take a look and I mean, question, ask yourself sometimes. But so regarding this article, I've read this guy's stuff before, and
oh geez,
it's pretty on point.
Now I'm worried.
No, what I do want to say though is, at the time you wrote this, everything was kind of unfolding, and there was a lot of uncertainty and stuff, and it was a lot of, what do we do? How can we respond? And again, I think you really picked out some excellent examples of people doing stuff that was, positive, people first. And I think that's, just in general, a good approach. But now, there's been a little time, and we have the benefit of time to look back and say, well, what worked? What was well received? And I think, talking later to Alan, there's a lot of validation for what you wrote in here. There really is. I mean, here's someone who said, we were one of the first firms in Georgia that went remote, shifted his approach on social media, did a lot of the examples that you have in here. He fully embraced and is doing as well. And I think there's just definitely, a lot in here about being, a resource. And it doesn't necessarily mean a resource only for people who are in an accident or only for people who have a medical malpractice case. If people look to you for help, just in general, or they find you as a good resource of quality information, that's going to pay off. And that's what we're talking about. And that's what we're going to talk to Alan later. And I think that's what you talk about in this article.
Yeah. Well, and you outlined something really interesting too. And Alan sort of expressed it later is marketing is a way to get the feedback from the marketplace and your clients to figure out what works and what doesn't. If you never put anything out, you'll never know what would have been. It seems a little odd to say that, but the only way you can find out how to better serve or create value is to listen. And the only way to really listen is to create a reason for people to talk, And so marketing is sort of this way to not only get a word out for you, but to get a word in from the marketplace to see, did they like that? Did they not? How do we engage with the public perception of lawyers? That's another thing Alan talks about, is the negative perception, and then how marketing can help counteract that. And so there's a lot of positives here. And I think, the general trend is, marketing isn't just a one-way event. When you treat it as a two-way event, you can see yourself in it. You can be better, serve your clients better. And maybe that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Very true. And I think it also points something out that you've brought up before. This article, I think, illustrates as well is, let's keep in mind when we're talking about social media, it's right there in the name. It's social. There's you're trying to get interaction. You're trying to get people to, have some kind of dialogue. And I think, that's, it's not all about hitting people over the head with the fact you're a law firm and you're a lawyer and this is what you do. Here's some really great examples. And Alan goes on and goes really in depth about some of the different types of things they've done on social media, the types of posts that get the most likes, the most shares, I think when you listen to it, you'll be surprised at what works. But those are the things, like he says, it's top of mind when they do have a legal matter that they need help with. First thing that pops to mind, if they don't know a lawyer, they're going to remember you.
It's the most recent thing. Yeah. So we unpack a lot of mystery, but we delve out a little truth. It's fresh. It's fantastic. It's fabulous. It's Lawsome. And it's coming up next. Let's go.
Let's go.
Stay tuned for more goodness from Lawsome after this message.
Since 1999, ConsultWebs has been helping law firms connect with clients on the web, connect digital marketing success with firm success, and connect their business goals to proven strategies that help them get the most out of their legal marketing. Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, a Lawsome interview.
Alan Cleveland is a founding partner at Adamson Cleveland, a Georgia personal injury law firm. He got his JD from the John Marshall Law School. He's worked in-house in sports marketing, and now he's in our house talking about law firm management and legal marketing. Alan, welcome to Lawsome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. So let's get our orientation. Can you talk about your trajectory in law and what led you to start your own practice?
Sure. So I had an interest in law as a kid, kind of growing up and through high school and college. I like the idea that a profession has standards, ethical standards, and rules that you have to kind of follow and practice by. And I've always enjoyed helping people. So I got to high school, got through college, kind of had it on the back burner, and then in my 20s, I just kind of saw it kind of slipping away. And after a 5-year stint owning a small business after college, I sold it, started working for a big company, and 5 years after that, I realized I was bored out of my mind, so I went to law school at age 32. I been married 5 years, had a 1-year-old baby, sold my house, sold all my toys. 24 years later, here I am, practicing law for 21 years, and I always knew I wanted to be a civil plaintiff's attorney and help people. And the nice thing about being a plaintiff's lawyer is you get to choose your clients, and all your clients have a soul. And those were kind of important things to me. So that's kind of what led me there.
So speaking about clients and speaking about service, in response to the pandemic, you and your firm, you transitioned to remote pretty early, probably earlier than most other law firms in Georgia, maybe across the country. What precipitated this decision? Was it service? And then how were you able to make it happen so quickly? Just sort of services and access, and then how did you pivot so fast?
Well, part of it started with my son. My younger son he's a pitcher for the University of Michigan baseball team. And so in mid-February, they start their season. They go out west and play. And I'd been in Arizona at the end of February in Phoenix, and that was starting to bubble up out there a little bit. And then the following week, we were in California, flew into LA, spent a week, drove up and down California all the way to San Francisco and back, and it was on everybody's mind there. Gotten back after that trip in early March, probably around the 7th or 8th, somewhere in there, talked to my partner, realized, hey, I saw what was going on there. It's coming. This thing's going to get out of control. We need to kind of take inventory of what we want to do. And we looked at our tools that we had. We had basically everything to do things remotely, just never really used them all. So we started prepping for that. We never really used it all to capacity. He and I would work out of the office, and we've got two lawyers, 2 partners, and 5 support staff. So we formulated a plan, set the parameters, and got going. And I mean, literally within days of starting that process, things just started shutting down all over the country, of course, and then Georgia shut down as well. So we were ready for it, pretty much with just a few a few little technical things we had to do.
So as far as those technical things were, I mean, was it, was your case management? Like, did you have to switch to a whole cloud-based thing? Show people how to use Zoom? Like, I mean, was there anything that you really ran into where you're like, well,
Yeah.
now we got to go back and do this,
Yeah, well, we use we have a cloud-based case management system that we use, and then we had the ability for remote access to our own. We have dedicated servers, even though we're a small firm, and we had a phone system that allowed us to, literally make my cell phone my office phone, so it looks like I'm dialing from the office. Not as important for me because I use my cell phone for business, but for staff, they don't want to use their personal cell phone. So it's voice over IP, which you can either, you can literally unplug the phone and plug it in somewhere else, and it's still like it's the office phone. So we had all that in place. We had to dry run it. We had to, people working at home. Some people had space, some didn't. So we wanted to make sure that they could have a productive place to work. We made sure they had, big screens so they could, multitask when they're at work. And we told them to focus on productivity rather than time. I mean, you can get a lot done when you're not in the office, but there's also lots of other different kind of distractions like, kids crying and dogs barking. So
True.
We focused on telling them, hey, we're looking at productivity, not the time. If you've only got 4 hours a day, that's quality time, get as much done as you can in that time, and we'll, keep things moving. And we made it really clear to them, as we always have, is, hey, your job's as important as ours. If you guys don't work, money's not going to come in. So we all got a role to play in keeping things moving.
Man. So you're like a really cool boss, but you know what? It sounds like you had a lot of these things kind of in place already. So, I mean, was this something you were looking at shifting? Like, it just strikes me with the phones, being able to, kind of dial out from the firm's main number, and the case management software already in place. I mean, was there something underlying to this? Were you looking at maybe being able to be, out of the office a little bit more, or was this just like, it was just common sense for you? Like, a little bit more about that.
I wish I could pat myself on the back and tell you how pretty silent we are to have all this tech. I think that this is stuff that's pretty much built into things now. And, lawyers, maybe I'm 56. So, I'm pretty I'm tech savvy. If it works, I like it. If it doesn't work, I get rid of it. If I have to read directions, I'm not going to use it. So if it's there and it helps me do a better job or saves me time, I'll use it. So we had all this capability. We never really put it all into a cohesive plan and tested it. So we did all that, and there were some hiccups. And for folks that aren't doing it, yeah, I mean, the stress was, I'm not saying there wasn't stress, because there was, but I can't imagine folks that are still, mostly operating on paper and landline phones and don't have access to things, to the internet and not cloud-based, can't have your files with you. That had to be extremely stressful. So, these are all tools that were here, and I guess the silver lining is we were forced to kind of make inventory of them and use them, and they work great. I mean, we all were, it's funny, we're all working from home, and we're texting, we got instant messaging between us, and everybody's talking and communicating, getting things done, and it was productive. I mean, we're working. So
yeah, it's a weird environment, but it can work,
What about the clients? Have the clients been receptive to it? Have they kind of availed themselves of the new tech? Have you noticed any problems with the way you're interfacing with clients?
Well, I think clients were always a lot of phone conversations, so that part hadn't changed. The biggest change has been, doing the face-to-face, and we had to, we embrace Zoom, of course. That's the platform we're using, and some clients don't have it, so we do FaceTime. And there were challenges with, a lot of times you need documents that have to be notarized, signed under oath. Well, that had to be, the rule for that is you have to be physically in the presence of the person to kind of give an attestation that they're who they say they are, and they understand what they're signing. So in Georgia, at least, the Supreme Court of Georgia changed that rule temporarily, suspended it with a governor executive order, so that could be done, via video. So you can live FaceTime or video somebody and observe them signing the document and attest to that. So those are the changes. Some of that is probably convenient for clients. That there's the practical stuff like, taking a deposition. We've done some of that. Mediation. I don't think we're not going to do a case by video, but there was a trial that ran out in Texas where they did a kind of a non-binding trial where you can have a little trial. They did all video, and the parties, they can see what happens, and if they go to mediation after that, and they know what happened with a jury in the video trial, so to speak. So that could be done that way, but no, the clients were very receptive to it. We did not take the affirmative step of notifying all the clients what was going to happen. We kind of felt like, hey, it's business as usual. We're here. If they call, we're going to answer the phone. So, if they had a question, they'd call us. So, and they're all busy with dealing with their stuff. On top
True.
of
Exactly right.
with this, like we are. So they've called us and asked for status, and we give it to them. We're business as usual.
I guess to switch a little bit, and before we got on the air here, we were talking a little bit about the different practice areas and the numbers and stuff. And the question I have about that is, a lot of firms are really unsure about advertising, and some even questioning if they should be advertising at all, if it's appropriate, if it's worth it, if they're, enough even people looking for, legal help right now to make it worth it. So what strategic shifts, if any, have you made with regards to your advertising?
Well, we've made a couple. One, again, we got back from my trip in California in early March. We immediately made a decision to triple our social media budget from what we were spending. We use ConsultWebs and Crisp Video, and we have our own consultants. We've got three kind of entities that help us manage our social media marketing and our website marketing. Our thought was, we're not really advertising for cases. We focused on brand awareness. Despite the negative public perception of lawyers as a whole, the general public has this negative perception of lawyers. People look to lawyers that they personally know for advice and leadership. I'm sitting with friends and, lawyers are terrible. And you ask them, well, have you ever used one? Yeah. Well, how about that one? Oh, he was great. I mean, so
oh yeah,
the lawyers that personally are great. And so, and that's kind of I think, the public service role of attorneys, regardless of their practice, is to be a resource for people that are in your circle, in your sphere. And we wanted people to know, hey, we're here, give them reassuring information about things that are helpful, like how to file for unemployment or how to get benefits or where you might be able to get a test. We focused on just inspirational messaging rather than, just say, hey, we're here. If you need help with anything, you're not sure how to get unemployment benefits, here's some information, call us. That's what we want to be. We want to be a legal resource first and foremost for our circle of people that know us, and then we want to be accessible and plant that seed. Hey, we're good guys. Here's my cell phone number. It's all over the internet. You need to get in touch with me, and you can't, you're doing something wrong, because it's easy to find me. And nobody ever thinks they need a lawyer until they do, and when they do, it's, at least in my practice, personal injury and catastrophic cases, it's a crisis, and they don't know what to do, and they need to turn to somebody, and they usually will ask a friend, or it's somebody on the top of their mind, or they see the billboard, and they're off to the races. So for us, that was the shift, was just increase the exposure of us and who we are, what we do, not really looking for cases per se, because we knew if people aren't moving around, there's not going to be a lot, and that's exactly what's happening. We just want to make sure that, hey, we're here. Here's some reassurance. If you need help, call us. And that's what we focused on with our marketing right now.
Yeah. So as the social media is focused on that, what's been the response? I mean, we've heard from plenty of lawyers on this podcast. You use your marketing as a way to test the marketplace without them. We're good guys. I love that. Without pushing out the message, no one really knows. They can't quite tell your suit from another suit. And I love that you approach this from a very utilitarian, marketplace driven, like your marketing is aimed towards the marketplace and not just for extraction purposes. Has there been a notable response or someone, that's just been thankful for this? Because, as you said earlier, there is that negative connotation around lawyers. Have you had, what's been the response from this, sort of this brand awareness play? I love it. I mean, of course we love it.
Well, the friends like, Alan, you're on my feed all day long, man. What are you doing? I'm watching. Great. I want to be on your mind. That's all I can ask for. I mean, it's not a, for personal injury, you don't need me till you've been in an accident or, something terrible.
Right.
It's, and, before I did a lot of this kind of social media marketing and capitalized on video and on YouTube and things, I talked to my friends I'd known for years, and they knew I was an attorney. And then, I asked them, they tell me, I just got a settlement. I didn't really like this guy. Do you know him? I go, yeah, I know him. What happened? Well, I was in a wreck. Well, why didn't you call me? I didn't know you were a PI attorney. That's on me. That's my fault. So
yeah.
People have to know that. So, yeah, that's the approach. It's gone well. I mean, we're getting, lots of shares and likes, and it's, all we can do is be out there. It's there's a jeweler here in Atlanta. He's national. He has been on the radio since I was in high school, and he's just constantly. And the first time you think about going to buy a ring, you think of him. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're not saturating the market to generate phone calls. We're not a big volume firm. We get most of our cases from other attorneys, but we're here to provide a service, and it's personal to us. It's one-on-one, and we're here to take care of our clients. And it's not just
yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's totally that awareness stage. I think you really have a really good handle on that. And a lot of firms miss that, people aren't going to need you all the time, but when they do, being the first thing that pops to mind, like that jeweler, I mean, that's critical. You climbed such a big hill, Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a combination of social media, email blasts, newsletter, follow up after the case is closed. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that just happens. I have a colleague who's a good friend of mine who practices here in Atlanta, same area as me. He sends me his cases to try. He's been the guerrilla marketer for 20 plus years, and he's got 3 times as many cases as I'll ever have at any given time. It's because he spent 20 years nurturing his clients and sending out birthday cards full of confetti, and he's just constantly attending to them, and that's where he gets all his cases. And that's what it takes. It takes for lawyers, marketing's like going to the gym. Everybody knows it's good. It's good for you. It's just hard to do. You just don't, you got other things you got to do or want to do than just be there wearing yourself out. And that's the hard part. It's just sticking to that plan and knowing that there's going to be you plant the seeds knowing there's going to be sprouts down the road.
Oh man. So maybe you may have just answered this next question, but I'm plunging forward here. If you could tell our listeners one thing that they could start doing like right now today that would improve their law firms, what would it be?
Well, you can always improve your marketing, but I mean, the one thing I would tell people is if you don't take care of your talent, somebody else will. You got to take care of your staff and people. We believe each of our staff's role in the office is as important as us as the attorney. Again, we've got 2 attorneys, 5 support staff. You got to give them the tools they need to do their job well. You got to build rapport with them. You got to take interest in them as a person. You know, we sit down, we've got me and my law partner, and we have 5 support staff. They all happen to be women right now. And we sit down every day as a group and we eat lunch. And everybody brings something, and we just put it out like a buffet. And it's, to a person, it's the best part of our day, is we're sharing a meal, just hanging out, enjoying each other. And, you know, it's not about how much you pay them, it's how you treat them. And, you know, somebody I heard once, probably at a seminar somewhere, is nobody cares how you feel. They care about how they feel when they're around you. That's really important with your staff. So that would be my number one thing, is take care of your people, because they're the ones that have to take care of you and your clients.
Well, you are a good person. Like at the beginning, we're good people. I love that. I mean, but it's interesting because lawyers themselves help exacerbate this negative public perception by dumping on advertising lawyers, which it sounds like you're on the other side of the hill, which is good, because you're playing this brand awareness card. I mean, if you could speak maybe to the lawyers who are kind of hesitant, oh, I don't need to mess around with branding, or no, I don't, you know what, that's cool for, you know, for Alan, but you know, for me, I'm not fancy like that. What would you say to that lawyer? I mean, is this for everybody, or you know, what's your thoughts there? And because you are correcting the public perception by the way you're marketing. I mean, you're doing it, man. Like, you're making things better. Those people aren't. How can you kind of talk them off of their high horse or something?
Well, I don't think it's a high horse. I think it just depends on where you're at. If you're a small town attorney, you know, the old school way of doing things is to, you know, sponsor local teams, you know, have banners and places around.
Sure.
Go to the nurse home and speak about Social Security benefits and stuff like that. That's all important stuff, you know, do that. And that works. But I think you have to, you know, the reality is that, you know, most people at the end of the day, they get this little alert on their phone that said, you spent 6 hours and 47 minutes on your phone today. Well, you need to be where people are, or at least where their minds and eyes are. And that's social media. So if you don't want to get involved in it, then, you know, it's certainly something you need to pay somebody to deal with or do. It will pay dividends. It takes time and it takes some effort. You know, but those traditional things still work as well. I mean, I'm you know, in my local, I live in a smaller, you know, a small town outside of the city of Atlanta. It's a suburb. And in that little circle, I've been supporting local teams for years, and, you know, kids ask for donations to their teams. I give it to them. You know, I've got boxes of plaques and things, which are great, but you do that stuff because it's good. It's good for the community. It means well. And that stuff still happens and should happen. But if you're but I'm also in the Atlanta area, and there's big marketers. I love those guys. They're spending, you know, millions a year, and they send me cases. So I'm not competing with them. You know, they're on a different, you know, on a different model, and how they do things doesn't mean they're bad lawyers, or that they're not good lawyers, or, you know, they're not good with their clients. It's just a different approach. I don't personally want to be, you know, a 100-man law firm. I like the size and the one-on-one rapport I get, you know, because clients talk to me, and that's ultimately what it's all about. And that if that's what you're about, you got to get that message out. None of this stuff is secret sauce. It's just, I tell folks that, you know, hey, I don't know what to put on social media. Our best performing posts have nothing to do with the law. We have a pet of the month adoption with the local Humane Society. We're doing a scholarship, raise defensive driving awareness with a college scholarship program to give away 3 scholarships for people that, you know, kids can write in and generate stuff. That stuff goes off the chart with shares and posts and likes. Has nothing to do with that, with you know, how to you know, what to do in a car wreck kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be legal. It just has to be real.
Oh my God. No, it's a little too long, but I would put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
So how can people learn more about you, Alan, and the firm? How can they learn more about you and find you online?
Our website is adamsoncleveland.com. We also are on Instagram and Twitter as @ATLLawGuys. And we've got an office in Athens, Georgia, and Norcross, Georgia, about 50 miles apart. So we serve this northeast metropolitan area and all over the state of Georgia. But yeah, the webpage, you can just Google my name, Alan Cleveland, ALAN Cleveland. Like I said, if you can't find me, you haven't tried, because it's all over the place.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
It was a book on Mark Twain quotes.
Nice. Love that guy. Number 2, what is your favorite place?
Athens, Georgia.
Right on. Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
I wish I could remember the names of these. I don't do a lot of the podcasts. I guess my news feed. I kind of hit my news feed pretty good.
Nice. Like social media, just check the... Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. All right. Toughest one of the bunch. Number 4, if you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Bourbon.
Nice. All right, last one.
I'm hanging out with Alan.
Totally. All right, last one. Number 5. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
I go home and I go out to my back porch and light a fire and pour me a glass of brown liquor. And the name of my porch is The Manctuary.
Nice. The Manctuary. That's awesome.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.